right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started today. We're very excited to have Michael Liebowitz here to speak on the Neurology of Yes. So Michael Liebowitz will make you rethink your business, reframe how you communicate it, and realize you can be playing a much bigger game with how you talk to your audience. He's an expert in the fields of brand strategy and behavioral neurology. Michael has worked with dozens of business owners to find their ideal market position and uncover the messages that grab attention, connect emotionally, and motivate people to feel like they want to buy. Michael will challenge you to go beyond the superficial and get you crystal clear about how you connect meaningfully with your audience and get them to say yes to what you have to offer. So Michael, we are glad to have you here. Thank you again for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. So there you are. You're about to say something to your potential client, to a potential customer. Now, I want you to really put yourself in this moment, okay? However it shows up for you. Whether you're thinking about what to say on a website, whether you're doing a social media post or an email newsletter, maybe you're actually talking to a person live, like on a phone call, Zoom call. And hopefully someday soon, we're having these conversations across the table from each other, right? Whatever that is for you, I want you to notice yourself there, and just before you put a thought to paper, or just before you open your mouth, I want you to hit the pause button, okay? Just stop the whole thing in time. What are you about to say? Are you going to be effective? Are you being deliberate and intentional in your communication? And most importantly, do you know if what you're about to say is something that when they hear it, it's going to perk them up and make them want to say yes to whatever you are offering, right? That's what we're here to talk about today. I'm going to talk about this one single moment in time that is so important to the health of all of our businesses. And in this moment, I want you to be intentional. I want you to be deliberate. And most of all, I want you to be effective in how you are communicating to your audience. Because here's what I believe, and I know this to be absolutely true. Every single one of you, no matter what market you're in, no matter how much competition you have,
Nathan, walk the dog.
You have that one powerful message that when your audience hears it, it resonates with them, it makes them pay attention to you, and it makes them want to say yes to whatever you are saying. Okay? So for the rest of our time together, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. I'm going to share with you how our brain is actually wired to receive and respond to messages. And along the way, I'm going to give you some really deep insights that are going to help you craft your own really powerful message for your business. Okay? Does that sound good for everybody? I want to see some head nods and hand waves. All right, excellent. Thank you, Wade. Now, before we get into all the good stuff that's going to be working for you, as of course, I'm going to make you wait for that. That's how these things work. Now, this is important. We need to understand what's not going to work, all right? Because there's something that a lot of business owners do in their communication that is not really working for you the way that you might think it is. And we need to notice it, recognize it, so that you can start shifting how you communicate. Looks like this. Spending way too much time talking about our features and benefits. Let's add some pain while we're at it, because somewhere along the line, some sales guru came along and said, hey, you got to identify their pain. You got to poke at it, right? Now, I know some of you are saying, hey, Michael, this is not what I've been hearing. I hear you're supposed to talk about your benefits. I'm with you on the features, but I heard you're supposed to talk about the benefits. And I hear you, but hear me out for a second here, because I think you'll understand in just a moment. Now, I'm not saying don't communicate these things, right? They are actually important. But here's the thing. What happens when someone comes along with similar features and similar benefits, and they solve for the same pain as you do, otherwise known as competition? What happens when one of those comes along, or 10 of them, or 50 of them, 100 of them? how does someone choose, right? Yet a choice does get made. But with all other communication being equal, how does that get done? And that's what I got curious about. What I discovered is that when we're spending all this time on features and benefits, problems and pain, we're actually talking to the wrong part of the listener's brain, okay? These things are important. They're an important part of the puzzle, but they have absolutely very little to do with that initial decision of, am I going to buy from you or not? There's actually another decision going on in the mind of your customer when they're making the decision to buy. The fun part of the whole thing is that they have absolutely no idea they're doing it, okay? It's happening behind the scenes, and it happens lightning fast. And to understand what's going on in the mind of your customer when they're deciding whether or not to say yes to you, we actually have to look at what's going on in the life of these guys right here. Turns out what's going on in the world of these gazelle is super important to understanding what's going on in the mind of your customer when they are deciding to buy. So let's go a little bit deeper. We're going to take a look at the human brain, because this is, after all, the neurology of yes. And we're going to divide the brain, metaphorically, into two parts. Now upstairs, we got the human brain. And the human brain does pretty much what you're going to expect a human brain to be doing. This is where we do logic and reason, a bunch of other great things that we think of as making us human. And we're going to call all this rational. Now, you've probably heard some version of this before, but stick with me. It's a little twist at the end here. Down below, we have what I call the critter brain. And the critter brain does only two things, and it does them extraordinarily well. It does emotions, and it does survival. And for what we're talking about, we're going to focus on survival. Now, given the choice between making a rational decision or a survival decision, which one do you think we're going to do? Right? Just sort of, I know your mutes are on, but just sort of indicate, yeah, I see some people mouthing the word survival. Survival decisions win every single time. I guarantee all of you and everyone you've ever met are the proud descendant of some long ago ancestor who, when walking across the plain, did not look over to the right and say, oh, gee, I wonder if that lion is hungry. Our ancestors ran away. Okay, the other ones didn't make it so far, right? Survival decisions win every single time. And one of the primary ways our brain is designed to make sure we survive is to make sure we surround ourselves with like kind. People and things, and sometimes the odd gazelle or two that are like ourselves. To the critter brain, it looks like this. I don't want me to die. Therefore, things like me probably don't want me to die either. This makes perfect sense to the critter brain. It also means that anything that the critter brain determines to be not like kind is a potential threat to survival. Okay? Those are only two choices. You're like kind, or oh, damn it, I might die. Okay? This drive to be with like kind is so powerful, it actually overrides all other decision making being done by your customer's brain. This also means that all decisions at their core are fundamentally a choice between, are you safe or are you not safe? Safe equals a sale. Not safe equals no dice. No one ever in the history of ever has purchased anything when the critter brain is screaming, if we do this, we're going to die. Just will not happen. This is the neurology of trust right here. Okay? This is also what I call a gatekeeper step. This is hardwired in our neurology. There's no way you can be a human being on this planet without doing this neurology, without doing this procedure. You might be thinking to yourself, hey, Michael, I make all kinds of decisions about determining if I'm feeling safe or not. And I get that. It's because by the time we reach a certain age, most of this gets automated. And that's why I said at the beginning, this is happening behind the scenes. Your customer isn't aware of it. It's automated. And that certain age I'm talking about is like mid-single digits to early double digits in age. So it happens pretty early. Okay? So the name of the game in communication is to get your audience to that safe part, right? To do that, we need like kind. So how do we do that? How do you create like kind? Well, we no longer have horns. We don't have stripes on our fur anymore. We're humans. We have something that, to the best of our knowledge, is completely and totally uniquely human. Our critter brains are looking for a like-kind match to our identity. Our identity is who we think we are and who we are not. Okay, those are two co-equal calculations when we are defining our identity, who we are and who we are not. It works like this. Your customer takes in whatever you are communicating. And believe me when I tell you, everything is communication. We are communicating in ways we don't realize. Your customer takes it in. Whatever that is, the first thing they do is they make an identity match. Are you like kind? And whichever way that answer goes, yes or no, gets kicked upstairs to the human brain, which then justifies the decision the critter brain has already made. It wraps a story around the whole thing and then takes credit for it. And then we think, oh, we made this decision using rational thought and all these great pieces of information. No, it's just justification for the decision already made by the critter brain. And then whatever that is, that story, we output into behavior. And the behavior we're looking for is that decision to smash that buy button, right? This is how we're all wired. And there's two key implications to this. Number one, the critter brain is in charge, all right? The critter brain is driving the bus. Second one is you as a business owner, as the one communicating about your business, you have control of only one part of this whole system, and that's right there at the beginning at number one. What are you communicating? And you can see why it's so important to be deliberate and intentional with what you are communicating, isn't it? So here's the first big sort of insight I want you to really understand. When you're communicating, you're not just communicating what you're doing now, which is probably good. Okay, I'll get into that a little bit later. But on top of it, you have to include this understanding, this link between identity and like kind. It's a feedback loop. Okay? Identity reinforces like kind, reinforces identity, and so on and so forth. This is always part of communication. And the more intentional you are with it, the more you can recognize it, the better you're going to be able to communicate. This whole system was designed to help us determine who is safe to include in our life. I'm being very deliberate with my language here. Who is safe to include in my life? This goes back pre-tribal, right? If that tribe over there, if their identity was similar enough to ours or my own, well, they're okay people. We can start trading together. If that tribe over there, if their identity is different enough, it's too many questions. They might be a threat to survival. In fact, better sharpen those sticks because you never know what might happen with those guys. We're not trading with them, right? It's all about who is safe to include in my life. Time passes. We get better at making things. Suddenly an industrial revolution happens and then QVC comes along and makes the whole thing confusing. And now we have a whole bunch of decisions to make about what to include in our life. But we got the one neurology, so we just borrow it, right? Not only are we determining who is safe to include, but what is safe to include. And that's what your customer is doing when they're making a decision about yes or no to your business. It's not a yes or no, do I want your thing? It's a yes or no to, are you safe to include in my life? That's what you're doing. Okay? The neurology we use when we meet your business for the first time is the same neurology we use when we meet a person for the first time. And that means to the critter brain, your business is another person. Critter brain only does emotion, it does survival. It doesn't do logic, it doesn't do reason, it doesn't even do reality versus fantasy. Okay? To the critter brain, your business is actually another person. Now, I know there's many solo operators here, small businesses. They see you represent your business. Your client, your customer sees you as the person, and they see your business as if it were a separate person. It's kind of a weird thing about how our brains are designed, but it happens. So everything I've given you so far really comes down to this. I'm giving you a lot of great information. Hope you've been taking notes. But if you only had room in your own brain for one piece of information, this should be it. All right? Features and benefits are logical arguments, and they only talk to the human brain. Only our human brain can hear them. And as you now know, that's not the part of us that's actually making the decision. So there we are as business owners, as business communicators. We're talking about features and benefits, and we're doing a pretty good job of giving our audience's human brain some really high quality information that they need to justify a decision. But we're hardly giving them anything at all that they need for the critter brain to actually make the decision in the first place. And here's where that gets us in trouble. Think of this like an equation, okay? X, the critter brain, plus Y, the human brain, equals the output, right? That pathway I showed you. Well, there we are. We're filling in the values for Y, but we're not sharing with our customers what are the values for X. In the absence of good critter brain information coming from you, your audience will make it up for you based on whatever you are communicating. All right? And what are the chances that they're going to fill in the gap with something that makes it swing your way? It's pretty low, because what they're doing is they're pulling it from their own experience of life. My past experience with something that reminds me of this was that, and so I'm just going to map you on with that same thing, and that's a no. Thank you very much, right? This is what it means to be deliberate and intentional and effective with our communication. So we do have something, though, that speaks directly to the critter brain, that gives them that value for knowing how to say yes or no to you in the first place. We happen to call this thing a brand, which is why you often hear it called a brand identity. And let's focus on the word identity, because I don't know of a single brand professional, including myself, that even likes the word brand. It's completely inadequate to describe what I just told you about, right? It's a brand identity. Now, here's how this fits into your world practically, all right? Because I don't want to just give you the theory, I want to give you the practical stuff. These actually equate into two main questions your audience is asking. One for the human brain, one for the critter brain. And they look like this. The features and benefits, well, what they're really asking is, what's the main outcome I get? This is the most important question you can answer that's going to satisfy the human brain to justify the decision. What's the main outcome I get from working with you? And that may not be the thing you deliver. In fact, in my experience, only a quarter to maybe a third of businesses, the thing they deliver is actually the outcome. The way to think about this is to ask the question, well, what does my audience get when they get the thing that I deliver? That's getting closer to the main outcome, all right? What's the thing my audience gets when they get what I deliver? Now, for the critter brain, here's what they're really asking. Do you believe the same thing I do? Why a belief? Well, identities are simply just beliefs that start with the words I am. Okay? Critter brains love a belief. We just want to know, do you believe the same thing I do? If you do, you're safe. If you don't, who knows what's going on? Okay? Here's why these are important. The main outcome, this is what they're really buying from you. Okay, that makes sense, doesn't it? That was kind of intuitive. Down below, the belief, This is why they're buying it from you. Lots of people can deliver on the main outcome. But why should I get it from you? The thing that's going to convince them is when you share a belief. All right? That's how the whole thing works. This is why they're going to buy it from you. So let's take a look a little bit further. People don't buy your thing. Okay, this is what we learned from the whole thing. This is also a great insight for you to understand. People don't buy your thing. They buy what your thing means to them. In your communication, you have to include what does this mean to your audience, because that's what they're actually buying. What's the main outcome I get? And do you believe the same thing I do? I'm going to go into this more in detail later on. So let's take a look at this. So they'll think about how this gets actualized in the real world. We have on the screen, yes, maybe, and no. This is not merely just yes, maybe, no, I want to buy it. It's yes, maybe, no, you are like kind. If it's a yes, those people are going to buy. Okay? You're safe to be around. It's okay to buy from you. You get to that yes zone, that safe zone, you're about 90% of the way to the sale. The rest is logistics. How much, what time? On the other side, on no, these people will never buy from you. It's not going to happen. And when you're clear about your brand, when you're clear about the two things I told you about, the outcome and the belief system, you know who these people are, and you can stop wasting time, energy, and resources marketing to them or being in sales conversations with them, because you're not in a sales conversation with that person. You can be in a different kind of conversation. I'm not saying those people aren't going to be good referral sources, but they're not going to buy from you. And in the middle, you have this big old maybe territory. These people usually don't buy, because here's what's happening. Whatever you're communicating is indicating some level of identity that matches their own. They're getting a hint of like kind, but not enough to make a clear determination. So they got a foot in yes and a foot in no. And what's that called? That's called maybe. All right? But maybe is a continuum. It's not a binary. So the closer they are to yes, the closer they are to buying from you, and the same thing for no. So here's what we have over here. It's what I call the zone of uncertainty. I know, super clever name, right? But this is money left on the table because of unclear and ineffective communication. But when you communicate in just the right ways, here's what happens. You capture all those people. You squeeze out all the maybes that were almost there if only they heard the right thing, right? This critter brain level communication, but you gave it to them and now they're on board. Notice the no's over there didn't change. They were always going to be no. Don't try changing their mind. Ain't going to happen. So let me give you an example. There's a client of mine from years ago. I don't do websites, but websites communicate well, especially for presentations like this. So this is what they had starting going in. This is a plumbing company. And don't just look at the words, look at the entire piece of communication, the image, the feelings you're having from this, right? Remember, critter brains do emotions. What are you noticing? What kind of plumbing jobs are you going to feel like calling this company for? Right, this intimate moment between a mother and child. They're family owned, right? Even the font they're using is kind of this friendly, intimate moment thing. Well, they were getting a lot of small jobs. Can you unplug my drain? Can you fix a leak? And those were fine, but they had to do a lot of them to make the ends meet. And it wasn't really what they got into plumbing to do. Yet this is what they were communicating. This was saying to everybody, hey, if you're this kind of person, if you're vibing with this moment, give us a call, right? Love their customers. They just didn't want to do those small jobs anymore. So they hired me to help them out, figure out like who they need to be, what they need to be communicating. And what we discovered is their belief system was like this. We believe in attention to detail because things should be built right, okay? They had this huge belief system about detail and just doing it right. And they wanted those bigger jobs and get in the meat of the build. So That changed all their communication. I helped them out with their web designer, and it changed to this. This is a perfect weld. It will last for decades. You'll never see it, but we put it in your wall anyway. Now what kind of jobs are you going to call this company for, right? Just this simple switch in communication, not just verbally, visually, and everything else that goes along with it, changes the frame of understanding. It changes the shift in communicating what you believe in, shifts who listens, right? So now they're getting the jobs they want. These bigger, meatier, infrastructure type jobs, simply because they changed how they communicated about their business. All right, so what goes into a brand identity? There are 4 main pieces: belief, meaning, belonging, and experience. I'm going to go through them each at a time. Belief. The question you're going to ask yourself is, what's really important about what I do, right? And I want you to focus this on yourself. What's really important to me? Because you get to determine your beliefs, okay? Don't ask your customers what you believe, right? This comes from you. What's really important to you about what you do? Beliefs create instant trust, all right? You've all heard that saying, they have to know, like, and trust you before they're going to buy. And often people think, oh gosh, trust takes a long time. They have to be with you at least 7 times or hear from you 7 times to start trusting you. No. The fastest way to get to trust is to share what you believe. It is trust on rocket fuel for the critter brain, okay? It creates instant trust. It makes you highly differentiated. Lots of businesses think their differentiation is some feature or benefit. We're faster, we have quality service, so on and so forth. Great. What happens when someone else comes along and says, hey, we're fast, we have quality? Boom, there goes your differentiation. But when you differentiate into a belief, only you own it because it's your belief. Here's how beliefs work. The person with the strongest belief wins. In any interaction between 2 people, the person with the strongest belief wins. That child believes they deserve that piece of candy more than the parent believes they don't. Guess who's getting candy, right? So by differentiating into a belief, like I showed you with the plumber before, you own it. Because anyone else trying to copy you and it's not really part of their core belief, they're going to come off as inauthentic. We are excellent BS detectors. And by BS, I mean belief system. We kind of instinctively know when someone doesn't believe what they say they believe. So if you really want differentiation, you really have to nail what we believe. And this also defines your market position, all right? So if you're looking for differentiation and unique market position, ask yourself this question: what do I really believe? What's really important about what I do? And then you go even deeper than that. What's important about that? Give you an example. Working with a client many years ago, cooking gadget company. They make like a sous vide machine and a bunch of other stuff. Their sales have been flat for about 1.5 years. And that's when they asked me to help them out, because they were communicating the exact same way as our competition was. This will cook your meals fast. It'll be no experience necessary, always perfect, like all these things, easy to copy, features and benefit level communication. Turns out their belief had almost nothing to do with cooking whatsoever. Here was their belief: it's fun to show off, okay? Beliefs do not have to be profound, all right? They just have to be true for you. So there they are, their belief is it's fun to show off. Eventually I got the CEO to say, you know what, I know this makes me sound shallow, but I love it when I host a dinner party and everyone turns to me and says, oh my God, I can't believe you did this. This is amazing. This was at the core of why he got into this business in the first place. This is why this business was so attractive to him. It tied into his own belief system. Now, beliefs by themselves are fantastic, but they're not the full picture. We need to attach them to a meaning. The question you want to ask yourself is, why does that matter? And that there we're talking about is the belief. Why does that belief matter? Meanings define your real outcome. all right? That outcome I was talking about before. And it shows how you fit into the life of your customer. Imagine how important that is. So back to our example, the cooking gadget company. The meaning of it's fun to show off is because everyone deserves to feel valued. Oh, notice how that gives the belief context, right? Notice how that starts defining an identity. We like to show off because we want the value it gives us. So how does this turn into messaging? Well, for some businesses, for some beliefs and meanings, it can be explicitly that. Here's what we believe, here's what we mean. For others, like this cooking gadget company, you have to find the spaces that point to it. And for this one, it turned into the messaging of, hey, would you like to be the star of the dinner party? Right? It's fun to show off. I get to feel valued. Do you want to be the star of the dinner party? Why, yes, I do. Fantastic. We have all these gadgets that are going to make you the star of the dinner party. Notice that for everyone who has their own identity, kind of matching with the identity of being a star of the dinner party, that message is going to resonate with them. They are now highly differentiated from the competition that's simply just talking about, oh, it cooks fast, moist food, whatever, right? It's easy. Notice how that works. Notice how they grabbed market position authentically from their own belief system, from their meaning. Now, belief and meaning are great. They're going to establish a whole bunch of great communication for your business. But belonging has got to be there too. You've all heard of demographics, right? Demographics are fine, they have their place, but honestly, they're not really useful. Maybe you've heard of psychographics. Somewhere along the line, someone has said, hey, you got to do a customer avatar, right? Psychographics. And that's even better. But the thing that's going to put everything on jet fuel here is to understand the belonging traits of your business. Asking the question, with whom do we fit? Another way to ask this is, how would I describe the kind of person who believes the same belief and meaning that I do? How would you describe them? Belonging is an incredible motivator. Belonging is what we call a baseline state in the biz of neurology. Human beings cannot survive without a sense of belonging. It's necessary for survival. So you can imagine signaling, these are the traits that signal belonging, you're in our tribe, you're in our club, is super powerful, okay? Like I just said, belonging defines your tribe. Maybe some of you have heard of that term. It identifies where you should market, and it increases your marketing ROI. Here's how that happens. Again, back to our cooking gadget company. When we defined the belonging traits, one of them is obviously someone who wants attention, right? From there are several others. From there, you can ask the question, well, where do those people hang out? Online or in real life? Because remember, like kind, we all hang out with like kind, okay? So belonging traits are going to tell you where people are hanging out. One of the things we came up with, we all had a big laugh about it, was that, well, these people are probably interested in cosmetic surgery. Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be funny if we did an ad campaign for cooking gadgets focusing on people who like cosmetic surgery? Well, 3 months later, I get a call from the VP of marketing. He says, you're not going to guess what we just did. We did a Facebook campaign targeting people interested in cosmetic surgery. And we did it as a joke because we wanted an anecdote to tell at our dinner parties. And it turns out it worked. Our sales bumped. We found a new marketplace we didn't know existed. All because we understood the belonging traits. We knew where they hung out. And we targeted them with a message about the belief and the meaning, about being the star of the dinner party. And it fit their worldview. Right? Marketing along the lines of your belonging traits are going to lead you into some directions that you can own where your competition isn't, and it's going to increase the return on investment for your marketing. Finally, we have the experience. What's it like to work with us? The experience of your business makes good on your promise. What promise? When you go out there and you say, we believe in these things, and here's what it means in your world. You are making a promise to your audience that this is who we are, this is who I am, this is the identity of this business, and you can trust us. But if the experience of your business doesn't match that promise, freaks the critter brain out, okay? Basically, you're saying, or the critter brain is saying, maybe you don't believe what you say you believe. Maybe you're a leopard in a gazelle's coat. Danger, danger, I'm out of here. So the experience of your business has to be aligned with the belief and the meaning that you're promising. Also, when you're intentional with with your experience, which is also a form of communication, it makes you more referable and it makes you more memorable. If you look at all reviews you see online or even in person, they're talking about an experience. Experiences get coded into long-term memory. Features and benefits do not. They get seen, evaluated as a justification and spit right out. But experiences get coded into long-term memory. So when you're deliberate in your experience, how you're framing things, what's the path they go through? Is it delivering on the outcome they want, on the belief, right? For the cooking gadget company, are there experiences you can give the client or the customer that let them show off? Oh gosh, you are now it. They are talking about you to everybody. All right, let's wrap it up and then we'll start taking some questions. So your brand identity, here's what it does for you. When you're clear on this, when you're absolutely clear on this, you get perfect market positioning and meaningful differentiation. You communicate with more impact, and it makes it easier to attract more of your ideal clients. That's the like, kind, in effect. When you go out there and you say, this is who we are, you start attracting people who are like you. Those are, if you ever wrote down your ideal client, you'll notice that you're describing yourself. And before we move on, I just want to say, think of this like being at a party. No one goes to a party, right, and like asking your customer what they want. No one goes to a party and says, hey, who should I be so that you'll like me? Okay, it's really creepy, super inauthentic. Instead, we go to the party and say, this is who I am. And you notice you get along with some people and maybe not with others, right? That's what you're doing when you're signaling a brand identity. You're signaling this is who we are. And when you know the belonging traits, you know where those people are hanging out. So they see you and they go, you know what? I'm the same way. Instant trust. Your offer becomes the one that I want to say yes to. You draw people to you rather than saying, hey, how should I shape myself so that you'll like me? It doesn't work that way. So here's how to know if you have a brand communication problem. If you're asking yourself or noticing I'm not differentiating my business, if you're noticing they're not seeing my real value, and if you're noticing I'm being seen as a commodity, all right? These are all brand problems. These are all problems of perception, how you're being perceived out there. Being intentional and deliberate with your communication, especially along the lines that I just showed you, is going to solve all of these, however they're showing up for you. And finally, it's been my pleasure to speak with you all. Here's my email and website. You'll notice on the left there, the Neurology of Yes. I have an ebook, which is a highly condensed version of the talk you just went through, with some examples of the 4 parts of a brand applied to really well-known brands. And I deconstruct them so you understand what's going on. So that's an added resource. It's yours for free. That will be sort of like a good addition to your notes that you've been taking, okay? So that's why I offer it there. So again, thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to take any questions you have. In fact, I'm going to go to gallery view so I can see you all. And Melissa, take it away.
Thank you, Michael. That was,
of course, my pleasure.
So interesting to learn about everything. Does anyone have any questions for Michael? If you do, you can unmute yourself.
Can we automatically get a copy of this ebook?
Melissa, if I send that to you, can you distribute it to everyone?
Absolutely.
Done and done.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, Michael, Palo Walker here. How are you?
Hey, Palo. Good to see you again.
Good to be seen. Thank you. I'm just curious because we deal with a lot of different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to me, I find fascinating how different cultures want to be approached in different ways. And
Yeah.
the things that I notice that are okay in one culture are not okay in another culture.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole being direct in some cultures is
Yeah.
really off-putting.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious. I mean, I understand the lizard brain, i.e. critter brain, versus
Mm-hmm.
the higher functioning, and we're always just justifying our decisions that we make, that
Yeah.
our lizard brain is always made. I'm just in that. But I'm just curious about the approach with different people and understanding different cultures, because I'm not that familiar with other cultures to be comfortable in expressing a belief.
Okay.
So my mother was the chief financial officer for Hello Kitty.
Okay.
Sanrio Corporation,
Right.
which if you have girls, Hello Kitty is the thing. And so
Very
I would
familiar
go
with the
visit these people, and through my mother, and the things that I would do were not good enough, my mother would tell me, because I'm not paying enough deference to them.
Okay.
So that feeds into their belief, are you safe?
Mm-hmm.
That's always something that's in the back of my mind, being a military guy. Is
Yeah.
someone safe around me?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it, because I
Yeah.
know that's what they're thinking. So I'm just kind of curious how that works.
Yeah.
Is this international, works for every human being, or do you have to kind of figure it out for every different kind of culture?
The answer to that last question is yes. This is universal for all human beings. It's hardwired. There's no escaping it.
I figured that, but there's
The main question to ask, I get what you're asking. Here's how this fits, okay? Yes, every culture has different, what's acceptable, what's not type of behavior. The real question isn't about that. Well, it's important. The real question, Palo, is what's important to you about the work you do? Now, there might be different ways to present that belief that's appropriate for the culture that you're talking to, but the belief is the same, isn't it? Right? So if I believe, well, I'll just give you my own, right? I gave you so many beliefs in that whole presentation. The main one is people don't want your thing, they want what your thing means to you, right? It's all about meaning. Meaning is what's important. Now, do I say that directly? To some audiences, yeah. Do I imply it more to others? Sure, but the belief is always the same. So there is play in how you present a belief, but you have to be clear about what the belief is in the first place and be deliberate with it and clear about it, right?
So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I know that the Sanrio Corporation, if I was talking directly to some senior executive that came over from Japan, and I asked him a direct question, I could tell that there was a little bit of a recoil, as opposed to, we're supposed to be making nice, finding out about their family, finding out about our family, doing all that stuff.
Well, the rapport building.
Right. And they have a different way of, and so I'm just.
Yeah,
there's a whole different
that example. I mean, in the sales cycle, you have rapport building, and then you ask them about what they need and so on and so forth, right? What you just described is just an elongated rapport building phase. You haven't really gotten to beliefs yet.
Right.
And just like a little added bonus here, everyone, in a sales conversation, right? You got the rapport building, then you say, hey, what is it you're looking for? What do you need? Basically, you're asking what's their outcome so that you can make sure it aligns with what your main outcome is, right? At some point in the conversation, you got to switch to where you're talking about your business and yourself and how you can help. You're going to do yourself a huge favor if the first thing you say when it switches to talking about your business is to say some version of, okay, so here's what I believe. Boom. Right? Whatever your belief. Oh my gosh, their critter brain is going to calm way down. And it sets the frame of everything you're about to say afterwards. Because it's all tied to a belief rather than a series of features and benefits. I can help you do this, and we can do this. And if you want that, we got that thing. But if it's all wrapped in like, this is what's meaningful about that, here's what we believe, we got them, okay? Or if they go, well, now you know you're not in a sales conversation. You can start having a different conversation, like do a little jujitsu in the moment here and say, okay, well, let's talk about a referral relationship then, because I ain't selling you anything. Yeah. Anyone else? All right, well, how are we doing on time? Oh, 10 minutes left. Good time.
Yeah, we are good. Does anyone else have any questions for Michael? We do have a little bit of spare time.
I got a ton of good answers. Probably the stuff you're not even thinking of yet.
I'm trying to go through my gallery view to see if I can see anyone.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
elaborate a little bit on like your message? Like what would be a series of steps that someone may take to kind of deliver your own personal message so that it's clear depending on the group that you're addressing without being salesy or just
Yeah.
being authentic, getting across your message?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm a big proponent, unlike some of the people that Palo has experienced, but here we are in the United States and we get to do this. I'm a big proponent of just saying it right up front. Like, here's what I believe, right? And that works for us, doesn't it? Especially if you got a local business.
But Palo does have a very strong point because that is very, very true. And I come across that as well.
Okay. So you're asking what are some steps to, I need a context. What context are we messaging in? Because it's different for each context.
Right. So like a conversation or an interaction with someone that I would have about what I do is very different virtually than what it would be in person. So in person, it's a lot more, how do you say, personable, first of all, but things flow better. You can get a more feeling of who the person is, you know, what their vibe is, all these nonverbal communicators in person versus virtually. It's like you have a wall there. They don't know you, you don't know them, vice versa. Seems like people are a little bit on edge.
Huh. I'm curious to know if that's everyone's experience. Maybe I get some head nods if anyone else has experienced that, or maybe not. Because Jennifer, honestly, and here's where the behavioral neurology piece comes in. I have a suspicion a lot of that is something that you're bringing to the Zoom meeting, and it hasn't. So
That's not fair.
no, well, I'm sorry, but it's if it feels different because there's a wall there, I'm not sure that wall actually exists because it's still just people talking to people.
Right, but
but here's what you can do to help that out. Is to maybe amp up that rapport stage, right? But but how to communicate about your business is still the same. That your customer, that person you're talking to, still needs to know what you believe. They need to know what the identity of your business is to make it easier for them to say yes. How you want to get there that makes you feel comfortable. Well, thankfully, we're coming into a stage in life where we can get back to in person. But I don't have specific examples of how to, for you, without really working with you, for you to message via Zoom and get that comfort level going.
Hey, Michael, this is
sense.
Sandy Hunter. Can I offer something to Jennifer?
Sure. Oh, yes, please. A little bit outside my expertise, but I appreciate the question.
Jennifer, as a woman in a male-dominated field, I work in custom manufacturing, so my base customers have been refineries, and we've gotten hit really hard over the last couple of years, COVID and some of the other things that have been going on. But I have to say, you have to be able to deal with the Zoom meetings and the online stuff, as you know. That's the real world, and it's not going to go away. What I have found for me that works extremely well, even if it's somebody that I don't know, is it's about energy. It's about energy, about being enthusiastic. Hey, listen, I am so happy that you've taken the time to be here with me. You know, I have to tell you that I do appreciate that this may be the new norm and we're all getting used to it, but boy, I am so glad to be talking with you. And this is why I so look forward to meeting you on this particular Zoom meeting or whatever. You lift yourself with that amount of energy, and it does bring people. You watch them start to smile. Even if it's like me, I get a little bit goofy, like, hot damn, baby, this is good. We're going for it. This is just terrific. It does. It elevates everything, and people kind of, they're not so stiff and up. They kind of relax a little bit, and then you can get into what you do best, which is what you have to offer, what your identity is,
Thank
what
you,
your
Sandy.
beliefs are, and that's just
Yeah.
my thought.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the how do you say, with the energy part. It's
Mhm.
just some conversations can be a wee bit awkward. And
Yeah.
people know that it's awkward doing these things virtual, which is why I mentioned it.
Yeah,
But
I
thank
get
you.
that.
Appreciate your feedback.
Yeah. I was just stating a belief and seeing if that calms the system down, because related but not quite the same. Especially in a sales communication. Well, sorry, let me back up. In a lot of human communication, we're actually dealing with a hint of guilt and innocence. Now, this isn't part of my main presentation, but since it came up, we're going to talk. I'll touch on it a little bit. When we ask, we feel guilty. When we give, we feel innocent. And a sales conversation is a kind of ask. And what I've noticed is in a lot of sales conversations, a lot of people include what I call guilt avoidance patterning. It shows up differently for everybody. Beliefs exist outside of the realm of guilt or innocence. They're just simply statements of belief. So if you, in this conversation, even if it's feeling a little bit weird because it's on Zoom and you feel like you're not connecting, when it feels right to you, you say, okay, so here's what I believe about the whole thing here. Here's what's true for me about what I do or why I think it's important. And just state that. And that's when they're going to really understand you and get to know you. Because that's how human beings do. Most of human communication is a bunch of people throwing beliefs at each other. We don't recognize them as beliefs because we think of it as conversation, right? Yet somehow in business conversations, we don't recognize that what we're communicating is a piece of our own identity, right? All businesses are aspects of self. They are literally a piece of us that we put into the business. And so when we recognize that and communicate on that level, and you're open to saying, hey, I'm not just a bunch of features and benefits here. Let me give you a window into some of me. Here's what I believe is true. You might notice, Jennifer, all that weirdness in the Zoom meeting goes, oh, I understand you. I get you. Give it a shot.
Michael, I was struck by, you said something about trust and building trust. And I was struck several years ago, I was in a meeting with some attorney, and the attorney said, it takes years to develop trust. And I knew that was a belief system of her.
Totally.
And I said, well, my belief is that trust is created with a certain intention. Like I can trust you right now.
Yep.
Or I cannot trust you right now. And I said, if you tell me, like if you say the Zoom meetings are going to be awkward, you just told me about your belief system. I think it's better off for Ms. Pope to say, hey, you know what? I'm not really a big fan of Zoom meetings. I feel awkward. That's my belief. And I'm going to try and do my best. Now it's out there and everybody knows it. And it's move on.
Yeah, totally true. And you're right. I mean, trust takes years to build. No, it doesn't. No. It literally takes an instant to build trust.
Exactly. Any belief.
Yep, absolutely.
That's what I believe.
Like I said, all human communication is a bunch of people just throwing beliefs around the room.
Look at politics.
Oh my God. Okay. You want to talk about kind? Take a look at politics. That just explains everything that's going on. But yeah, and that's the point of my whole thing, is that in our business communication, we pull out all that stuff and it becomes this mechanical features and benefits thing. That's not how we're designed to connect. Yeah. Does that make sense for everybody? Only since my hand waves, I know you're all on Zoom or everything. Yeah, good. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Melissa, anything else? You're on Zoom. I'm sorry, you're on Zoom.
I am on mute.
Yeah.
I think that is it. Thank you again, Michael, for taking the time to provide this presentation. And then again, everyone, I will send out the contact list and I'll include the link to the ebook as requested, so everyone has it. We do have a mixer tomorrow at 4:00 p.m. on volunteering. We're going to go out and do a couple breakout sessions. We have a lot coming up. The biggest thing is our grant that we are administering for the city of Concord, $10,000 for small businesses in rent arrears. It's a commercial rent relief grant. A lot of information about that has been going out and you can find everything online. I know it's 11 o'clock and everyone has other meetings to get to. So be on the lookout for all of our emails, communications, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, everything. Yes, when I send out the contact list, Wade, I will have a recording of this meeting as well for everyone. All right, everyone, I hope you have a good Wednesday and hopefully we'll see you at an event soon. Thanks,
Thank you all
everyone.
very much.
Thanks, everybody.